All right, so today we're diving into something I think pretty fascinating.
Oh, okay.
It's about this revelation that Joseph Smith received
Yeah.
way back in 1830.
Yeah.
And it's about the sacrament.
Okay.
And, what kind of wine we should be using.
Yeah, that's a pretty unique one.
Yeah, it is.
Especially, for people that are familiar with how sacrament is practiced today.
Exactly. And, for our listener out there, the Sacrament in the Latter-day Saint movement, it's this really important ritual.
Right.
Where we take bread and water to remember Jesus' sacrifice and to renew our covenants with God.
Yeah.
And this revelation that we're looking at today, it's actually an excerpt from...
It's a collection of revelations that Joseph Smith received very early on. Not as widely studied as, say, the Doctrine and Covenants, but it gives us some pretty incredible glimpses into those really formative years of the church.
And so this particular revelation comes just a few months after the church was organized in 1830.
Yeah.
And this one really caught my eye because you've got all this energy, you've got all this change happening, and then boom, a commandment about not buying wine for the sacrament from your enemies.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a curveball.
Yeah, it is a fascinating detail that I think it really speaks volumes about the context of the time.
Yeah.
1830, that was a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. A brand new religious movement facing opposition from all sides, skeptical neighbors, concerned religious leaders, even economic pushback.
Yeah.
It was really, in a lot of ways, a fight for survival.
So this commandment then to only use wine made new among you, it wasn't just about like the practicality of making your own wine.
Was it? No. I think it ran much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Imagine this. The early saints gathering together, literally pressing grapes, fermenting wine for this sacred ritual.
Right.
It becomes this powerful act of self-reliance.
Right.
A statement of their distinct identity, in the face of all this opposition.
Right.
You could even argue that it was a form of early protest, a refusal to engage with those who sought to undermine them.
It makes you think about the sacrament in a whole new light. Because it's not just this ritual, right?
Right.
It's interwoven with their struggle.
Absolutely.
Their community building. They're creating something sacred from the ground up.
Yeah. And it's not all, struggle and strife. I mean, this revelation ends on such a hopeful note.
Yeah.
This beautiful imagery of Christ himself drinking wine with his followers during his millennial reign.
That part really struck me too.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to get caught up in these historical details and forget that these early saints, I mean, they were driven by such a powerful vision of the future.
Yeah. For them, that imagery of Christ sharing wine.
Right.
It wasn't just a symbolic gesture.
Right.
It was a glimpse into Zion. It was like a tangible experience of that future world that they were striving to build.
Right.
This world of peace and unity.
Right.
Where Christ reigned.
So we've got this one revelation that touches on intention, community, opposition, and this incredible hope for the future. It's almost like a microcosm of the early Latter-day Saint experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it raises some important questions for us today. How does this specific revelation help us understand the evolution of the sacrament as we know it?
Right.
How did these early experiences of persecution and community building, how did that shape the broader trajectory of Latter-day Saint beliefs and practices? Building this community that will ultimately share in this incredible experience together.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's really interesting how it kind of combines this very practical instruction about making wine with this very grand and almost utopian vision of the future.
Yeah, so we have the enemies we have making it new, and we have drinking it with Christ.
Right, exactly. And it's all kind of interwoven together.
Is there anything else in this revelation that you think is really important for us to understand?
Well, I think the way it talks about preparing for the future is really interesting.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, it says, lift up your hearts and rejoice.
Okay.
Which kind of speaks to this really joyful and hopeful expectation for the future.
Yeah, it's not like a dreadful waiting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like doom and gloom. It's excitement and anticipation.
Yeah.
And then it also says, gird up your loins.
Okay, what is that all about?
Well, that's kind of an old-fashioned way of saying, like, get ready for action.
Okay.
Like, prepare yourself for something demanding.
Yeah, so it's not just about, like, passively waiting.
Exactly, yeah. It's about, like, actively preparing yourself and your community for this future event.
Oh, so it's, like, hopeful, but you got to get to work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you got to be ready.
Okay.
You got to be prepared to, like, do what needs to be done.
Yeah. I like that. So, I guess, like, wrapping all this up, what can we learn from this revelation?
Well, I think it tells us a lot about the power of, like, shared beliefs and rituals in building a strong community.
Okay.
Especially during times of, like, change and uncertainty.
Yeah, when things are new and a little shaky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they're creating their own world in a way, with their own rules and their own way of doing things.
It's based on, like, really deep meaning for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not just, like, arbitrary. It's, like, deeply connected to their beliefs and their hopes for the future.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it also leaves us with a really interesting question to think about, like, how do we create that same kind of meaning and connection in our own lives today?
Oh, that is a really good question.
Yeah, like, what are the things that bind us together and give us that sense of purpose and belonging? It's something to think about.
That is something to think about.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Okay, everyone, think about those questions.
Yeah, think about it.
And we'll see you next time.